Hello, dedicated Solforge viewers. Managed to get titanium again. I was the first player to get titanium. World first, season 4 titanium player. And I just wanted to share with you guys the deck that I mostly used to get there. I think Peon more or less constructed the core of this deck. I changed a lot of it anyway, so I mean, realistically, I could probably just say it's my own brew at this point, but I mean, the iteration's pretty obvious. You just have all of the really aggressive creatures and stuff that goes good with them. And then whatever you need for, matchups that are typically bad or whatever. Yeah, so this is the list. 3 Relic Hunter, 3 Rageborn Hellion, 2 Frontline Combatant, 3 Blitzmane the Destroyer, 3 Aurotech Explosives, 3 Brimstone Tyrant, 3 Korok, 2 Shatterbolts, 3 Warhound Raiders, 3 Nexus Aeronaut, and 2 Saipian Experimentation. The Shatterbolts are something I very, very recently added. Maybe like my last 10 games or so I had. But besides that, I did not have them in the deck for the longest time. Frontline Combatant I also added, and I ended up cutting Saipian Experimentation. I had 3 in the deck at one point, but they were it's one of the weaker cards. It's fairly good against burn, but I wasn't running into burn a lot. It was mostly fiend burn, which going all in on one creature isn't a valid strategy against because they typically run a bit of removal. So I did end up cutting one of those. Gotta remember, I played a lot, and I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering what other cards I even had in the deck at this point, because I played a ton. So, well, I didn't even really play a ton, but I did. I'm the first person to get titanium, so I played more than essentially everybody else at this point. But a big part of that was double queuing and triple queuing. Just trying to remember the iteration of the deck that I had before. I'm gonna pause the video quickly. Alright. I had War Machines in here originally. I had 3 War Machines, no Frontline Combatants, no Shatterbolts. What was it? There was another removal spell. Again, kind of drawing a blank. It's not super important. This is the deck that I ended up with though. The War Machines were good. I did like them actually quite a bit because you have so many free creatures and you play the War Machine out. But that being said, it was kind of a win more card. I also tried Ash Maidens in the original iteration. It was kind of the same thing. It was better just like the deck does what it does so well that you really don't need to shore up that core a lot more, I found. It really just needed some more utility. Yeah, like the deck was already performing extremely well, so I just wanted to kind of shore up the bad matchups a little bit. Robots is really bad, and the mirror was actually pretty difficult as well. And Frontline Combatant was a big part of that, so I did put in the Shatterbolts and Siberian Experimentation as well. Like really, really hard for this deck to deal with. So I ended up adding the Shatterbolts in response to that. If these decks aren't really being played a lot, then it's not super necessary. You could put something that fits the core strategy a little bit better, like what was it, Pyre Giant? I think people were playing. I wasn't, but that was kind of a fan favorite, just to push more damage. I don't think I would ever include that card. I think that's what it was called. Yeah, this guy, Pyre Giant here. A lot of people are playing this, or were playing this, just to push more damage. But the deck's already so good at pushing damage, and this is such a weak creature. I didn't think it was necessary. Some people might disagree, but I couldn't see myself ever playing this card in the deck. So take that for what you will. Frontline Combatant, super impressed with this card. I actually should probably be running 3 of these. The card is so good. It's just really, really powerful. Um, yeah, other than that, I just want to show off the deck and let you guys know what I used. Um, in the description, I'll put a link to my Twitch chat, one of my VODs, where I play the deck for 5 hours. There are older iterations. This was the start of the run. And they aren't all good games, and there's some drafting in there as well. I'm decent at drafting, but I'm certainly not the best by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, so this is the deck. It's super fast. I don't think it's the best deck per se, but it is really, really good for climbing, just because it's you win your games really, really quickly, and it's somewhat easy to multi-queue with. Usually the decisions are pretty much play creatures and kill whatever creatures they have, and if you can do that, then you just do that. So yeah, it's not super intensive as far as thinking goes. You certainly can think a lot more and play the deck better, but the making less optimal choices don't punish you as bad with this deck, just because of like all the cards are so streamlined for what you want to do with the deck. So you could almost play any 2 cards each turn and it won't be that horrible. I mean, to some extent. Anyways, so I just want to show one more deck that I used. There were 2 other decks that I used to get to Titanium. Basically, if I was hitting a lot of stuff that the deck was bad against, I would switch just for a bit and maybe take a break or whatever. But this was another deck that I used. This is not a finished product. I basically just threw this together to try and combat some of the decks I was playing against. Just in case anybody wants to try it, though, it was, I was definitely positive win rate with this deck. Didn't play a ton of games with it, like maybe 10, 15, if even that, and probably about 70% win rate with the deck. So, if anybody's looking for something else, or you have the cards for this particular deck, this was pretty viable. I wouldn't recommend crafting anything to try and make this deck, because it is kind of subpar, but it is really good against stuff like Fiend decks or, aggressive decks, or control decks even. But then another one that I made to combat the deck that I was playing was this deck. And I actually quite enjoyed this deck. It was a lot of fun, and I had a pretty good win rate with it. Again, not streamlined yet. The card that I really liked playing with this deck was the Scourge Flame Sorcerer. This card was actually pretty awesome. And again, I don't know why I'm only playing 2 Frontline Combats. This should probably be 3. For some reason, I just felt like putting 2 of these and everything, but this should probably be 3. There's actually a lot of 2s in this deck, which, is typical of a control deck. But you got the Anvil and Arbiters, Cacklebones, awesome combo with the Leyline Demons as well, in case you don't have the Arbiter. And then, just a bunch of control cards and value cards. So this deck, I think, is a little bit better than the last one. The Life Drain with Ignirs. I think that this deck is a little stronger for what I wanted it to do. I ended up playing this one when I was actually Platinum a little bit and doing fairly well with it. So this is another deck that I used. This one I could actually recommend. It was a lot of fun if you like playing control decks. I had Leyline Sentries in this deck. Felt super unnecessary, especially since the deck already is pretty good at dealing with Grow Wide. Like, you have so much removal and epidemics and all that fun stuff. So deck didn't have a lot of trouble with Grow Wide and creature spawning. So the Leyline Sentries, they also aren't really that good. Like a 2/8 or a 7/14, like they're fine, but they're not that good to really proc. So yeah, this was another deck that I used. Again, only maybe 10 to 15 games. The bulk of my games were with the first deck that I showed, but just wanted to show these ones in case anybody wanted to try a different route. Again, wouldn't really recommend this for climbing. It's a slow deck. It'll make your climb take 2-3 times as long, because that's just how much longer the games last. But it was a fun deck, and it was good for switching it up a little bit, so I didn't go crazy playing the same deck for so long. Yep, that's all that I really wanted to showcase. The 3 decks that I mainly used to get to Titanium this time, and I was the first person to get there. So figured there'd be one or two people out there interested in this. And again, I'll link in below. I've got a ton of games on my Twitch on the VOD playing Peon's Rage deck. This one here. Again, they are older iterations. I was running Ash Maiden for the first couple games, and I wasn't running Frontline Combatant, which was a huge mistake. This card is bonkers. If you have the silver to craft this guy, if you're lucky enough to open him, definitely recommend playing him. He's so good. Like the level 3, just like everything about this card is just, it's a 6/12 that kills something when it comes into play. Like, it's so good. Yeah, like I said, I should probably be playing 3. I don't know what I would cut right this very second. Probably, if I had to make a choice right now, I might even just take Psype and Experimentations right out of the deck. Or maybe 2 Rageborn Hellions. Because Rageborn Hellions are only good in some matchups. Yeah, I could probably see 2 Rageborn Hellions and 3 Frontline Combatants. Doesn't matter. Play this card. You'll love it. I definitely loved it. It's a really, really strong card. Yep, those are the decks, and that's all I really wanted to do for this video. So, hope you guys enjoyed this, and it makes your grind to Titanium to be the best player in the world a little bit more enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.